Okay, welcome back. Today we are jumping straight into this explainer on C++ Chapter 8, where we're going to break down some advanced repetition structures. Now, if you've been writing code for a little while, you're probably super comfortable with standard loops, right? But I want us to start by asking a really practical question. What exactly do you do when a looping task has to happen at least one single time before you ever check your condition? To figure that out, here is our roadmap for today. We'll look at pretest versus post-test loops, the C++ do-while statement, tracing with desk checks, nested repetition structures, and wrap up with the POW function.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, pretest versus post-test loops.
So the crucial difference here really boils down to timing. A pretest loop might literally never run its instructions if the condition is false right out of the gate. It's kind of like checking the bouncer at the door before letting you in. A post-test loop, on the other hand, evaluates that condition after the instructions have already run. It lets you in, lets you look around, and only then decides if you actually get to stay for another round.
Think about it using this analogy where our character Robin is walking down a hallway toward her bedroom door. The pretest loop works even if she's already standing right at the door. She checks, realizes she's there, and doesn't take a step. But if you look at the post-test loop setup, Robin actually takes a step forward first and only then checks if she's out the door. So post-test loop really only works correctly when she's at least one step away, because it guarantees she's going to take that first step before checking her location.
Seriously, if you take away just one single rule from this entire explainer, let it be this exact quote. Because the condition is sitting at the very bottom, that block of code is absolutely guaranteed to execute one time, regardless of what's hiding in those variables when the loop first starts.
Moving right along to Section 2, the C++ do-while statement. Let's look at how this is actually written. Notice the keyword do sitting at the very top. It's essentially telling the compiler, hey, just do this block of code right now. Then we've got the braces enclosing our statements. But pay close attention to the bottom here. There is a massive landmine you want to avoid. See that required semicolon at the very end of the while condition? In your standard while loops, you definitely don't put a semicolon there. But in a do-while loop, it is absolutely mandatory to cap it off. Forget that, and you're getting a syntax error, for sure.
Okay, Section 3, tracing with desk checks.
This flowchart perfectly maps out the logic for a sales bonus program for Miller Incorporated. Just look at the visual structure for a second. You can clearly see that decision diamond hanging out at the very bottom of the loop. That means all the processing, like calculating the bonus by multiplying the sales by the bonus rate and displaying it, all of that happens before the condition is ever even looked at. When we desk check this, meaning we're tracing the values on paper, the first pass of the loop calculates a $500 bonus on $10,000 in sales. Because it is a post-test loop, this calculation is guaranteed to run once based on that initial input, which we call the priming read. Then, as the loop hits the condition at the bottom and evaluates to true, it repeats. The program prompts for an update read, allowing a second sales amount, let's say $25,000, to be entered. Notice how in our desk check, that original $10,000 is completely crossed out and overwritten by the $25,000. These variables are updating dynamically as the loop cycles. Finally, when the user is completely done, they input -1. The loop processes the prompt, hits the condition at the bottom, and evaluates whether the sales are not equal to -1. Well, since they are -1, the condition finally evaluates to false and the loop terminates. That makes -1 our sentinel value. It's a special input designed purely just to kill the loop. Now for something a bit more fun. Section 4, nested repetition structures. Before we dive into the code itself, this clock analogy is spot on. Think of the seconds hand as your inner loop. It literally has to complete a full 60 iterations, ticking completely around the face, before the minutes hand, representing our outer loop, increments just one single time. By following these 3 steps, you can really visualize the execution hierarchy. Step 1. The outer loop begins. Step 2, the inner loop fires up and runs until its condition becomes false. Step 3, the outer loop finishes its single pass, repeats, and forces that inner loop to start its entire cycle all over again. The inner loop is always doing the heavy, repetitive lifting here. Check out this code snippet. Here we are nesting a for loop that counts asterisks directly inside an outer for loop that counts lines. We're essentially building a grid. The outer loop tracks which line we're currently on, from 1 to 3. The inner loop prints the actual asterisks, from 1 to 5, on that specific line.
If you compare the very first desk check update with the fifth update, you can see this acting in real time. The inner loop just furiously prints out 5 asterisks in a row on a single line before it finishes. Actually, it's only after that finishes that the outer loop has a chance to execute its endline statement, dropping the cursor down to the next line to start the whole shebang over again.
And finally, section 5, the POW function. The POW function is basically your elegant solution for calculating exponential growth. So if you're building something like a savings calculator where interest compounds over years, you definitely don't want to manually multiply variables over and over again. That's messy. You just use POW.
But remember, it doesn't come for free. If you want to use POW, you got to follow some specific syntax rules. Most importantly, you must include the cmathlibrary at the very top of your file. Also, expect it to return a double, and make sure at least one of your arguments, either the base or the exponent, is actually formatted as a double.
Ultimately, understanding exactly how to control the flow of data is what separates a beginner from a really solid programmer. So I'll leave you with this challenge. Take a look at your own recent code. Are you actually using the right loop for the job? Or are you writing extra, clunky code just to force a pre-test loop to do a post-test loop's work? Dive into your editor, try out a do-while loop, and just see how much cleaner your logic becomes.